Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on the best top laners for Season 5, patch 5.4. And before I start the video, I want to let you guys know that I found it hard to come up with an order to place the champions in for this patch, so if they're on my list, then they are a strong pick right now. Don't pay too much attention to the order for this patch. So first up on my list, I have Malphite. Pros to Malphite are he's got a game-changing ultimate. Malphite is one of my favorite top laners in the game right now because even if your team doesn't do too well in the laning phase, if you can get ahead as Malphite and if you can find that pick with your ultimate on multiple targets in a team fight, then it can completely change the momentum of the game. He's also got very strong team fight because of his ultimate and because of his very strong pick potential with it, and he's also super tanky. He is great against AD enemy comps as well because the more armor that he builds, the more damage that he gets on his E, which is really nice. And he also does a surprising amount of damage. I usually like to go Iceborne Gauntlet on Malphite, depending in the situation, or depending of the situation, of course, but most games I do go Iceborne Gauntlet, and once you do hit level 6 and you have your Sheen, you actually do quite a bit of damage. And he is also very strong if you can get ahead with him, because if you do get ahead, you can always be looking for picks with your ultimate, which makes him a really strong pick. Cons to Malphite are he is quite mana hungry in the early game, so I would definitely recommend starting Crystalline Flask. I pretty much start Flask every single game because you just run out of mana really quickly, and he does have some weaker matchups as well, which is also another reason why you should take Flask. Next up on my list, I have Lissandra. So pros to Lissandra are she has very strong crowd control. All of her abilities except for her E have some sort of CC in them. She's also got very good mobility with her E, and she is a great team fighter because she can deal a load of damage. She is also very safe in team fights because she usually builds Zhonya's, so it's going to be very hard to focus on Lissandra in team fights if she uses Zhonya's and she has her ultimate up as well, because what she can do is she can use her ultimate on herself, and then after she comes out of her ultimate, she can deal a little bit of damage and then use Zhonya's, so it's really hard to focus on Lissandra in team fights. And she also has great wave clear because of her Q, which is on a very short cooldown once you get that maxed out. I'm pretty sure it's a 2 or 3 second cooldown, depending on the cooldown reduction you have. So you can just be spamming that out in team fights or spamming it to clear waves as well. And she's also a great pick against melee or melee top laners because she is ranged. A con to Lissandra is that her passive is pretty weak outside of the laning phase. Next up on my list, I have Hecarim. So right now, I've played a few games with Hecarim top, and I thought it was a little bit troll when I heard of it at first, but he's a really good pick in certain situations. He's a great pick against melee or melee top laners. He's a really good pick I found against Nasus too, so if you're having a rough time against Nasus, I found that Hecarim can bully him out of lane pretty hard because his Q is really good for just harassing against melee top laners, and it's also good for farming as well. And his E actually does quite a bit of damage. Once you get the Sheen on Hecarim, his E procs the Sheen, so if you get your E fully charged, it actually does quite a bit of damage. And he snowballs insanely hard as well. Once you pick up your Trinity Force, which is the first item I like to build on Hecarim, he does an insane amount of damage. And he also has a really strong mid game. Once you pick up Trinity Force and Youmuu's Ghostblade, those are the two main AD items I like to get on Hecarim. He does an insane amount of damage. And he's also got very strong teleport ganks down bot lane, especially when he hits level 6, because he's got his E and he's got his ultimate, which are really good CC abilities. And if the enemies are pushed out of lane and you can teleport to a ward behind them, you're pretty much guaranteed a free kill every time you use your teleport down bot. A con to Hecarim is that he is weaker against ranged top laners. Next up on my list, I have Irelia. So pros to Irelia are she has a very good mid-game power spike because when she gets Trinity Force, the item synergizes really well with her, and she just starts to do a load of damage once she picks that up. Her E is also very, very strong. If you can land your E on an enemy AD carry in a team fight and get the 2-second stun off, you're gonna be able to pretty much melt them before they can even get out of the stun, which is really strong. She also has true damage on her W, which makes her a pretty viable pick against enemy tanky top laners. And she's also got a gap closer on her Q, which is really nice. You can make some pretty cool plays with Irelia's Q, because you can dash to a minion that's low, and then you can dash to the opponent that you are wanting to jump on, and it's really good for just surprising your opponents. She's also got pretty good wave clear because of her ultimate, which is on a pretty short cooldown, and her passive is very strong as well, especially for teamfighting, because in teamfights, the amount of tenacity you have, if you have your, obviously you'll have your passive, and then if you buy Mercury Treads, you just have so much tenacity, and it's really hard to CC Irelia in teamfights. She's also a bruiser, so I like to build Trinity Force on Irelia and then pretty much go full tank from there. I might build Maw of Malthorius if the enemy teams have if the enemy team is high on AP. But if they aren't, then I pretty much just go Trinity Force, or if I'm really far ahead, then I might go Blade of the Ruined King. A con to Irelia is that she is weaker in the early game. So next up on my list, I have Kenan. Pros to Kenan are he's a very strong laner because he is a ranged top laner. He's got very strong poke, and his passive is really strong. The recent buffs that Kenan got, where his W, or where his ultimate now procs his W, is really, really strong, because it's going to allow you to get your stun off even quicker in team fights, and it's going to allow you to do even more AoE damage. So I was playing a game recently with Kenan, and I literally just flashed in, used my ultimate, used my W, went into Zhonya's, and we killed the enemy team in like 2 seconds at most, because the Zyra was there using her ultimate as well. So Kenan's just got an insane team fight because of his ultimate and his W. And he's also got really good mobility with his E, so you can pretty much, it just allows you to push out in lane as Kenan and not have to worry too much about the enemy jungler pulling off a gank on you, because his E is a really good source of mobility, and it's really hard for the enemies to gank you whenever it is up. A con to Kenan is that he is weaker if he does fall behind. So from now on, I'm just going to do 6 honorable mentions, because recently I've been doing like upwards of 9 honorable mentions, and I've just found that that's too much. So if a champion that you think should be on the list isn't on the list, it's probably because of one reason, whether it be they have a weaker laning phase, whether they have a weaker team fight, or whether they just aren't very strong in the meta right now. So if you are wondering why I haven't included a certain champion on the list, then you can just ask me in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to you on that. But first up on the honorable mentions, I have Wukong. Wukong is a really strong team fighting champion, so if you're looking for a good team fighter, then I definitely recommend picking up Wukong. He does have a little bit of a weaker early game against some of the ranged top laners, but if you can survive the early game and get to team fights, then he's a really, really good pick. Next on the honorable mentions, I have Maokai. So right now, in my opinion, I think Maokai is the best tanky top laner in the game. The reason why I have him on the honorable mentions instead of Gnar is because they both pretty much fit the same role as being a tanky frontline in team fights. However, I think Maokai is stronger than Gnar, because Gnar, with the recent nerfs to his passive, you're not always going to be in Mega Form, and it's a lot harder to work around his Mega Form because it only lasts for a certain duration. So when he's not in Mega Form, he's going to be missing out on all of that CC, so you might as well just play Maokai and be guaranteed to have that CC in team fights. Whereas with Gnar, if the enemies are smart, then they'll just wait till your Mega Form runs out, or if they see your Rage Bar creeping up, then they'll just back off. Of course, this isn't going to happen every game, but I just think Gnar is a riskier pick than Maokai because of that, and Maokai's got some of the best disengage or some of the best peel in the game because of all of his CC abilities. If the enemies try to jump on his AD carry, what he can do is he can just use his W, lock him down, use his Q to knock them back, and he's just got really strong peel, and his ultimate is also very strong because it reduces the damage coming from enemies by 20% if your teammates are standing in it. So in my opinion, Maokai is the best tanky top laner in the game right now. Next on the honorable mentions, I have Swain. So Swain is really good for top lane because he's a ranged top laner, so he doesn't really have any very hard matchups, and he scales really well into the late game. However, he is countered by the item Morellonomicon, so if you are going up against Swain, I definitely recommend building Morellonomicon if you're playing an AP mid laner or an AP top laner, and also always have somebody run Ignite on your team if you're going up against Swain because his ultimate won't be healing him for very much in team fights. Next up on the honorable mentions, I have Riven. So Riven is a really snowbally champion, however she does have quite a few weaker lane matchups, and unless you really know how to play Riven and work around her weaker lane matchups, then she can be a bit of a risky pick at times. Unless you're a Riven main and you know her matchups, I wouldn't recommend blind picking her, but if you can find that good matchup and you can pick up some kills in the early game, then she snowballs really hard and she does an insane amount of damage. So next on the honorable mentions, I have Sion. Sion is a really strong teamfighting champion because of all of the CC he has. He's also a really strong laner as well, so if you're looking for a champion who is pretty tanky, then I'd recommend picking up Sion. He doesn't deal like a load of damage. I wouldn't recommend going AD on Sion because he does have pretty good base damages with his E. His E does quite a bit of damage, which makes him a strong laner. Definitely max out your E when you're playing as Sion because it's his main damage source. And because the reason why I wouldn't recommend going AD on Sion is because you won't be able to get your CC off in team fights if you do go AD Sion because you're going to get bursted down pretty quickly, and because you want to be looking for picks with your ultimate if the enemies are caught out of position. If you're going AD Sion, you're not going to be tanky enough to wait for your team to come up and finish the engage with you because chances are you're going to use your ultimate, your team is still going to be trying to catch up and work with the engage, so I would recommend building tank on Sion because of that. So last but not least on the honorable mentions, I have Rumble. Rumble is one of the strongest teamfighter top laners in the game because of his ultimate. It does take time to learn how to use it correctly because it is kind of it's a very unique spell. No other champion has something like Rumble's ultimate in the game, and it definitely is harder to land. So if you're new to Rumble, then I'd recommend trying him out in some normal games first to get used to landing his ultimate, because if you can't land his ultimate, then you're missing out on a lot of his kit. However, if you can land his ultimate, it's a game-changing ability, and he's definitely a champion worth learning because of that. So that is all for the video, guys. If you enjoyed, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.